Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novi-Williams, and this is the Family Matters Sports Business Podcast, the Sporticast.
Now, I assume that's not Family Matters because I'm at the beach here on the Jersey Shore. Focus group of one turned 15 on the, what is he? What was it? What's his bird? 25, right? The 25th? I don't even know what day it is anymore. Are you kidding me? I'm just trying to get these guys. We brought him down to the beach with 4 of his friends. So I've got 5 14-year-olds running around
Godspeed.
the Jersey Shore. Yeah, I'm like, just go. Just go. Whatever you need, especially now, just go. So it's not the My Family Matters, right? It's not the Soshnick Family Matters. I think I know whose family you're referring to and where you're going because there is a certain NBA event that takes place tonight.
An NBA draft starts on Wednesday night, continues on Thursday, Scott. Typically around the NBA draft, we're focusing on who's going to go number 1, who's going to go number 2. Instead, this year, the most interesting, by far, the biggest storyline, it's not anyone who's going to be taken most likely in the top 10 picks. It's Bronny James, LeBron James's son. And what I think is a fascinating, a little bit of game theory calculus that's going on at many different teams right now about how they assess value and whether that value is inherent on-court talent or other value that basketball players have. And Bronny James, more so than any other prospect I can remember in recent times, has more, it seems like, has potentially more value off the court than he does immediately as a talent on it. And I think that's fascinating.
So you're so good on the sport business right away. I'm already distracted. Is it too early for a Soshnick tangent? I mean, we're not even 2.5 minutes in. Is it too early?
It's never.
You have
early.
the spit guard, so everything's fine.
Like, yes, too early, but
no,
no,
I know that's true. Yeah, too early. But you have the spit guard. When I breathe, I just have sort of the mic cover, the puffy, squishy
I saw you
thing.
picking something out.
Yeah, well, as I breathe, I can see there's like cat hair from home stuck on it, and it's moving around when I breathe. And I'm trying to pick it off without moving because the wires are very delicate, and so I'm trying to. If just in case you were wondering, I wanted to let you know that's what's going on here. Like,
yeah, that's your brain. Let's go back.
Well, let's get back to it. Yeah, I'm already on record. I'm on record. If I am somewhere in the bottom third of the first round, yeah, I am selecting Bronny James. Absolutely. Unless, like in years past, there is some, Euro forward that nobody's heard of that you have scouted. Like Donnie Nelson was away, and he's like, well, I saw this kid in Serbia on a playground that nobody else has seen. Yeah, like the last name is right, Doncic, and then go with that guy. But if you're really not in love with anybody and like, well, it's a project or it's a possibility, we'll take a flyer. I'm going to do that on Bronny James. And where do the Spurs pick? What are they, like 35, right? Are they where are the Spurs? You have a,
I'll tell you right now.
You've got Victor Wembanyama. You've got Coach Pop, obviously. Does LeBron want to go there and play for Pop? The whole global appeal where Bronny really has value. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but certainly, yeah, it's at the top of the draft. Like, who we want to talk about tonight? You want to talk about Alex Sarr? Who? Yeah, exactly. Another French guy, right? Another Frenchman at the top of the draft. You want to talk about Alex Sarr, who's likely to go number 1, 2, or where's the intrigue? Do you want to see where Bronny James goes? Because as LeBron has said for a number of years now, he would love the opportunity to play with his son.
So San Antonio picks 35th. It doesn't look like they
early second round.
Oh, they picked number 8, which they're not going to.
Not happening at 8. Not happening.
And 35th early second round. Yeah. So just to tease out the Bronny thing a little bit further, and we're obviously not a basketball podcast, so we can't speak to his talent on the court. It seems like from everything I've read, he is not first round or even start of the second round talent, at least not right now. The interesting things about Bronny, one. He has by far, I think, the biggest social media following of anyone in this draft for obvious reasons. 2, his father has said, and the agents over at Clutch, Rich Paul, has walked this back a little bit, but LeBron has said he wants to play with Bronny. So a team drafting Bronny could also be thinking we have a better chance of landing LeBron when he's a free agent in a year if we have his son. And the other piece of that is that people also might be thinking about drafting Bronny because he is going to have trade value, either to the Lakers if they want to keep LeBron after next year, or to any other team that LeBron decides to go to. Let's say it's the Mavericks and decides, you know what, I want you to get my son here as well. And as you know, second round picks, sometimes they're all-stars, but it's a little bit of it's a guessing game here in the NBA. So in your game theory, if you're picking in the early part of the second round, let's say, you're also thinking about how surefire is the player you would draft instead of Bronny James. What do you think about as their talents on the court? What is their off court value? It's rare, as I said, to see a prospect that has this much potential leverage or value outside of immediately on the court. And I'm fascinated, Scott. It's a 2-day draft, and Bronny may go
for
to the
first
second
time.
day.
Yeah.
First time it's a 2-day draft, so there'll be eyeballs on the draft in the second round on Thursday afternoon if he is still around. But yeah, I'm fascinated by it because it seems unprecedented in some ways.
I'm going to tie it all together, a little triangulation here on the Jersey Shore, Eben. As you know, a lot of these are one-way streets, right? You're doing the grid circuit, one-way streets. So I'm not saying the Soshnick family dynamic is any better or worse, but we've heard a lot about Bronny saying, or LeBron, I want to play with my son.
Yeah.
Have we heard the other way around?
Great question.
After being stuck in the house with 5 15-year-olds, like, I'm not so sure a focus group of one would be like, yeah, I want to play on the same team and in the same city as my dad. And I say that with fresh in my head. I saw on social media the other day. Did you see, the famous video clip of somebody hitting a fly ball to left field where Ken Griffey was standing? And Griffey's just standing there with his glove waiting to catch the fly ball. And Junior goes running right in front of him. Junior runs right in front of him and grabs the ball and catches. And Junior turns back and he's laughing. And, Pop is sitting there like, I can't believe that just happened, you jerk. So, I'm not so sure from the youngin point of view, like, I need to be playing with my father. And it works out with him a lot and all that. That's one thing. But now moving to the next level and being on the road with dad and especially with a guy who is obviously the focus of the team anywhere he goes. That might be a little weird scenario for his kid, but I'm sure the organizations that are thinking about it have done that due diligence and determined whether or not they really want him there. But the 2-day draft is the interesting part here. Like, what was the purpose of breaking it up? The NFL has so many rounds; it's a little bit different. But we're talking 4 p.m. on a Thursday on a cable network. So if I'm Disney, I'm excited, right? I'm excited that Bronny James is here. I mean, it beats sort of your unknown European player, sure. I'm not sure, though, and this is I come with this after conferring with Anthony Krupe, who managed today to synthesize his thoughts into less than 4,000 words, that he doesn't think Bronny will move the needle much, even if he falls to day 2. Yes, there'll be interest, but because of the time, because of what the NFL draft looks like between lower rounds and the first round, he just doesn't think there'll be, from a business perspective, that big a deal for ESPN or Disney.
Do we know why the second round starts at 4 p.m.? Is that not wanting to compete against the presidential debate?
I'm assuming you do. Yeah, I'm assuming you don't want to. You do not want to compete against the debate. That's for sure. That is must see TV right now.
The only non-sports television event that actually takes precedent over most big sports television events is presidential debates, at least historically. I actually have a trivia question for you before we move on from family members. How many sons of former NBA players played in the NBA this season?
6.
34.
Really?
According to The Guardian, the highest in NBA
34.
history.
Wow.
That shocked me. I also would have said something in the middle single digits.
Yeah. Wow.
34 last season. And there's research that apparently, this is according to The Guardian, suggests that second generation NBA athletes are vastly underrated in the NBA draft. They've looked at the 68 players, sons of NBA players who have been drafted in the NBA since 1989. And they have outperformed their expected value by draft slot by more than 30%. So,
well, I remember
Steph
years
Curry,
ago,
Klay Thompson, Sabonis, Jalen Brunson, right? Devin Booker.
I guess if I thought about it, I would have said more than 6 because I knew all those names.
I'm looking at a list here, but yeah, it's certainly fat. 34 players, sons of NBA players. That's wild.
Wow, that is amazing. Years ago, I remember when somebody asked David Stern about the sons of referees. That because David was we have the best officials in the world, and somebody pointed out, I don't remember who it was like, well, if that's true, David, boy, it really does seem like an anomaly that so many kids of referees would make it to this level if it really is on the global basis, a global talent pool, that so many would be. And he said, no, it makes sense that if you grow up in a referee household and if you understand what it takes and you're talking with your father, I guess it's sort of the same thing that we're seeing here. It's not an anomaly that these kids, one, of course, genetics. I mean, I'm not sure how much genetics really factors into how fast you can,
so
blow a whistle.
But
but growing up, maybe it helps. But yes, you get genetics, and you can obviously see when these kids have grown up hanging around professional clubhouses and locker rooms, there is a certain savvy and understanding that does leak through. There is a maturation and understanding that is there that does matter when they play their high school and college ball.
And we have sons of coaches, right? Eric Spoelstra is a good example of somebody who came up in a coaching household and has obviously made quite a career for himself.
Well, John was a team. He was a team president.
Oh, team president. Sorry, yes. He was not a coach. Gotcha.
Yeah, he was a team president, and I love it. He used to. What a perfect thing. Eric got to start in the video department, and I think I've told you the stories where John said he would send the VHS tapes. Now, you know what a VHS tape is, right, Evan?
I know I do, yes.
Yeah. Blockbuster, Pecan Rewind. And then somebody had a Wayne Huizenga reference yesterday when they were talking about the Florida Panthers. I think it was Bettman mentioned Wayne Huizenga to have I said, it is I said something like, it is a blockbuster day for the Panthers. I thought that was pretty good. Where the hell was I going with this? Oh, but John would bring home the VHS tapes for his son, who was obviously a basketball wacko. And you could tell in some of the tapes, and his favorite was Isaiah Thomas, the Isaiah crossover dribble. You could actually see the spot in the tape where Eric had rewound so many times. It was like rewind play. Like he would freeze it. I mean, it is really but that's what I'm talking about. Like being around it it is not an accident that this kid grew up to first start off in a video spot for Pat Riley, who demands that sort of incredible dedication, and then had the attention to detail to be an incredible coach. You're just, you've been around it. You're hanging around Pat Riley. You're hanging around the athletes. You're hanging around with your dad and when things he's done, you understand the business. So not a surprise he is where he is.
So we've got NBA draft on Wednesday, NBA draft on Thursday, and then on Friday, we have NHL draft in Vegas at the Sphere. Something new this year when Macklin Celebrini, here's his name, picked number 1 overall and goes over to get his San Jose Sharks jersey. It's going to be a Fanatics jersey. Scott, this is year 1 of the 10-year on-ice partnership.
I think Macklin's the only person who didn't say how much he loved it.
Exactly, yeah. So let's get into this. Fanatics, a company that is omnipresent in sports, licensed sports apparel. It is a company that has a fairly rough reputation among the social media crowd for folks who don't like its product, like to make fun of the company. And Fanatics was dragged into the fiasco earlier this year between Major League Baseball and Nike. Fanatics makes the Major League Baseball uniforms for Nike, does not have a role at all in the design process. However, when everybody, players, fans alike, got up in arms about the MLB jerseys, the Nike ones, Fanatics bore a large brunt of the criticism. And let me tell you, having talked to folks there and looking at, as you referenced, the way they announced these new NHL jerseys this week on Wednesday, Scott, it is clear that they are thinking about missteps that Nike made in its process and trying to get everybody on the record as early as possible about how much they like these jerseys and how much they appreciate the process that went into making them.
Every all-star in the league, seemingly, in the press release. Yeah, and the video's great. And they were just like, nobody is going to be able to say, if for whatever reason something goes haywire, that due diligence was not done. Yep. That the players' opinions were not included, that they did not test drive these jerseys, because it looks like they took it out from every angle, and they made sure that the players liked it. And most of all, and you have friends who point to the very specific thing that I have never noticed, but it was the dimpling on the shoulders. Apparently, fans did not like the dimples on the shoulder. And players, and you know me, by the way, I am going to say something sacrilegious here, because as you know, I got my focus group of 1, and I just, as a player, and just now, I do not like the hockey sweater. It is so heavy. Maybe the pros have a different material now, I don't know, but they get wet. My kid's a goalie, and they lose so much in water weight that those things weigh like 12, 15 pounds by the end of the game. They're soaking wet. And I love those little thin, the thin meshy practice jerseys.
Yeah.
They weigh nothing. They flutter behind you when you're skating at top speed. I love everything about that. And as the mental advantage, or the real advantage, if I was an NHL owner, I would lobby to have those mesh little practice jerseys be my game jerseys. I think it would be an advantage to the team that does it.
So you're veering into Nike baseball territory here. One of the big changes that Nike made to the baseball uniforms was a much lighter material. They were trying to make the argument that you just made, that when material gets sweaty, it gets heavy, and trying to streamline and also ease the weight burden. And it obviously didn't go well for the NHL, for MLB there, or Nike.
Yeah.
Just some names, just to put context in this, is what we're talking about. These are the names that are either quoted in the release or mentioned in the release as having provided feedback. We have Connor McDavid, Alex Barkov, Matt Tkachuk, Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Brady Tkachuk, Austin Matthews, Connor Bedard, John Tavares, Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes, Cole Caulfield, and Quinn Hughes. Essentially 15 of the 20 biggest names in the sport right there from a star power standpoint. And worth noting also, Marty Walsh, the executive director of the NHLPA, in here quoted saying the Fanatics has kept their commitment to partnering with the players and the transition. If you think again back to the Major League Baseball and the Nike situation, Tony Clark, who runs the MLBPA, was maybe the most vocal, one of the most vocal.
He pointed the biggest finger
process about Nike being to blame and frustrations with Nike's process. So not only is Fanatics getting the biggest names in the sport from an athlete standpoint, they're also getting the union on the record at the start about how happy they were with the process.
The message is clear. Absolutely. The Fanatics wanted to make sure when this happened that they would say, the players would say, we're happy with this product. Because that's where the fans take their lead from the players. Owner says something, whatever. They want to hear what the players have to say. Although there is a sort of gross omission, Eben, and it's me saying it. So do you want to go down that list quickly in your head? And can you pick out what is the gross omission?
I thought about it also. It's goalies.
Where the hell's the goalie?
Yeah.
The most important position on the ice. No goalie gets to say I like or I don't like this uniform. What the heck?
I tweeted.
Way to go, Novi Williams.
You could have an all-star game with these names and then thought about it more and be like,
you have nobody to stop the puck. Nobody's
scoring.
there to stop it. You put those freaking those coverings when the goalie doesn't show up for practice that everybody hates. Practice is half as fun when you don't have two goalies. My God.
Only one defenseman here, I think. Also, Quinn Hughes, I think, is the
Quinn
only
Hughes.
defenseman. So,
well, people love the goal scorers. That's the equivalent of chicks taking the long ball right there.
The prejudice right here.
Absolutely. If you could pick one goalie, and I'll even let you know. Like right now, you can include Bobrovsky if you want to. You can pick one goalie if you're Fanatics. One goalie comes out and says, "Man, I love this jersey." Who do you want it to be right now?
Oh man, that's a great question. I mean, I think you either want Vasilevsky as the player's favorite, the one that people think is the best.
Yeah.
And from a big name standpoint, oh man, I'm not sure, to be totally honest. Is it Hellebuck? Who's the biggest?
Connor
name?
Hellebuck? I think I'm still going with Shesterkin.
Okay.
New York Rangers.
New York, big market.
Yeah. Jeremy Swayman, maybe.
Yeah, interesting. There's no I feel like there was cult of personality style big name goalies for a long time, and we just don't have that right now.
We'll have to wait for focus group of one to make his debut.
Yeah,
but they say practice like you play. So you wear this very light, meshy jersey in practice, and then you put on this heavy sweater in games. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think you're making sense. I would imagine that if you said this to Fanatics, they would have been like, we are going with the same material. We are not going to rock that boat, at least not right now. Maybe in a couple years, we get our feet under us. We get confident in the ability to make big changes.
Well,
but after seeing what Nike went through, I think you'd be crazy to change the material.
Well, if you paid attention to the sort of video they put out with Austin Matthews, with the woman who says, I made these jerseys. Like, I played my part. You score the goals, but I played my part in the game too. I can't think of another sport where the jersey itself is treated with reverence. And that's what, in my tweet, I'm like, I'm not even sure if I was Fanatics, I would have said jerseys. They're sweaters. There's that traditional, it's the hockey sweater. And the fact that now the big deal fans were looking for, which they could not before, get the exact sweater that the players were wearing, that's a big deal in hockey. Authenticity, the tradition of those sweaters means something in hockey. So I mean, I get it. I think this sport, there's probably a little more. I understand what happened in MLB. It's terrible. But there would have been, absent that controversy, there still would have been tremendous focus on anything that changes the hockey sweater because it is treated with such reverence.
I'm glad you brought up, by the way, the buying of Authentics, because this is, in doing reporting on this, was something that surprised me. Apparently back in 2014, when it was a Reebok contract, Reebok stopped selling the actual authentic jersey, the one that players wear on the ice. They stopped making that available for fans. When Adidas took over the contract, whatever it was, 6 years ago, they didn't even bother selling the actual authentic on ice jersey. And for folks who care about this stuff, and I've got a good buddy, Justin, shout out to Justin, who's one of these people, you'd buy the jersey, a game worn jersey from a player at an player auction, right? Or a league or team auction. You would then pay someone to take the name and number off the uniform, then pay someone else to put authentic on ice name and number of the player you wanted on the uniform. Could cost $800, $900 for some teams. I've heard it could cost significantly more just to get your hands on an actual authentic NHL jersey. And now Fanatics, moving forward, one of the big things that they're promoting is the idea that you can now, I believe it's $450, but you can now buy the actual jersey that Jack Hughes, the actual Devils jersey that he's wearing, exact same specs, etc., that he's wearing on the ice. So that's a change I know that Fanatics made largely because of it's going to cater and pander to the biggest NHL fans for one of the biggest gripes that they've had with Reebok and Adidas over the past decade.
Well, you ever watch the little kids when they go into the youth hockey games and whatever, talk about the reverence of the jerseys? There are certain coaches that mandate this. I'm very happy that our coach for a focus group of one does not, but they walk in with the jerseys on hangers. Like, that doesn't happen in football. That doesn't happen in baseball. That doesn't happen in basketball. But hockey kids, they come in with the jerseys on the hangers. So, it just sort of shows it's ingrained in the lore of the sport that you treat that jersey. You should be honored to wear it. Like, it's a privilege to wear that jersey. So I remember I had a whole collection when I was young, and they were the real deal. I saved up my money and did it, and I didn't buy from China, as I might be apt to do these days. But
how the tables have turned.
Yeah, exactly. My Lemieux. Well, I paid for it myself though. My Lemieux jersey. I was never so happy when I got my first jersey. It was a Lemieux, but it had the fight strap that you buckle on the back or you snap on the back. I had that. And I patterned my game after Peter Zezel. I just loved Zezel as a player. I don't know if you know Peter Zezel at all.
I know the name, but
all right. It was like the Flyers. It was like Tocchet and Zezel. So if you remember, it could have been Tocchet, same guy. For some reason, I picked Zezel over Tocchet. I don't know why. I was just a Zezel fan. Maybe it was the Z. But when I got my real Peter Zezel, I wore that thing to stick in pucks. I wore it to practice. And coach was like, "What are you doing? You're supposed to be in the dark. Wear something dark." I don't care. I had my white Flyers jersey with Zezel, and that was a favorite. What do you think is going to be doing with the Coyotes? Are we getting Coyote jerseys?
I was about to make the same transition. It's news this week. Alex Merwello, longtime Coyotes owner, when the team moved to Utah, just to refresh people, the Ryan Smith bought the players and the hockey ops staff, but not the Coyotes franchise IP and name. And there was an agreement between Merwello and the NHL that he had 5 years to secure land and a new building. And if he did all that and met some other guidelines, the NFL would give him the ability to have the Coyotes rejoin the NHL at that point.
Yeah, the franchise was dormant, as they said.
Yeah, it was the official word. Well, he hit a major roadblock this week. The land that he was planning to bid on, I think it's state-owned land or city-owned land, public-owned land. The auction was canceled, closing a door for I think what many considered to be Alex's final potential avenue for getting land and starting a stadium project. Our colleague Barry Bloom reporting that Merwello has told folks in Arizona, executives around with the team, that he's giving up, that this was the last straw, and that the idea of the Coyotes coming back to the league under his ownership is not going to happen. I'm not surprised, Scott. I don't think you are either. I think it was a huge long shot that Alex Merwello would ever be an NHL owner again after the struggles and the disappointments of the last few years in Arizona. But I'm with you. There's franchises like the Whalers that have tremendously valuable IP that the league sometimes uses and leans into. And I am very curious to see, because I'm not convinced that hockey in Arizona is dead. I just think hockey in Arizona owned by Alex Merwello is dead. I'd be very curious to see what happens with the Coyotes moving forward.
I task Boomski, and I hope I'm not giving away too many ideas here, but it's not every day where franchises just go poof. So you've gone from active to dormant to poof. What now? What do they have? Literally, what do the Coyotes have? They didn't own the building. They rented offices. Remember where they let some guy found the Shane Doan banner in a garbage heap somewhere or whatever. But what do they have? Can you have a garage sale? Everything must go Coyotes. Or if I'm Ryan Smith, I know it's apples to watermelons between Hurricanes, and Whalers.
Yeah.
But they do. Tom Dundon does honor the history of the franchise every now and then, wearing the Whalers stuff. Whalers gear is very popular. We've got some in the Soshnick household. You see it pop up everywhere. Brass Bonanza is still a thing. I don't know if you're going to get that with Arizona. Is there any value? What do they have? Is there a garage sale? What now? What? How do you make a franchise go poof?
They have two things of value. They have the Coyotes IP, and we can debate how valuable that is. And then they have this agreement to, under certain circumstances, get back into the NHL. And it sounds like
is that transferable?
One of those two things.
Yeah, but is that transferable? I don't know.
My question for you: let's say you're Matt Ishbia.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple years, you get a new Suns arena downtown Phoenix. You decide, I kind of like the idea of a hockey team. You call Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman is over the moon, thrilled to sell you a franchise slot. You're bringing hockey back to the desert. Do you want Coyotes IP, or do you want a fresh start, new name, new logo, new jersey? Do you want to totally separate it, or do you think there's value for the next Arizona hockey owner in Coyotes IP?
I would say I want the Coyotes because I want to tap into the existing fan base right away. And it could be like a Dodgers situation. Nobody really loved Alex. Yeah, so just sort of, white hat, new owner, white knight, anybody new kind of deal. But they will embrace sort of you can still have Coyotes with a rebrand of color, of design, of whatever it wants. But I think people want to bring back that Coyotes. They'll be loyal Coyotes fans.
And not that it really matters, but in my opinion, one of the better logos in sports, the Coyotes Kachina logo, just really an awesome logo that fans inside and outside of hockey, I know adore in equal parts. So there may be some extra value in the fact that it's actually just good IP in addition to having all the history as well.
One of my favorite vignettes is years ago when they opened the NHL store. Have I told you this story? I don't know if you've heard all my stories. This could be one of those days where this could be, normally they include David Stern. This is a Gary Bettman, but I go down and I don't know if I was doing a story or whatever.
This is not the new one that opened a year ago.
Yeah, no, way back. So like the very first NHL store. Yeah. So I'm standing there and they have, Gary is very proudly waving at, and look at this historical wall here. It had the pucks of California Golden Seals, the teams like that, the Whalers and all that. Wow, look at this. And I don't think I missed a beat, me being me. I was like, but Gary, isn't this really just a wall of failure?
I'm sure he loved.
Needless to say, Gary was not a fan of that one. Yeah, Gary was not a big fan of that line. Like, now you throw the Coyotes. But if you do that, if you put the Coyotes on like this wall for this is not there's no way in which you can tell me the Coyotes is a success story. Not now, anyway. It's a total failure.
So this is actually an easy transition to the hockey that was played this week. The Florida Panthers winning the franchise's first Stanley Cup. Gary, one of the big tenets, hallmarks of his commissionership has been this southern and westward swing of hockey franchises in non-traditional hockey markets. Tampa Bay has worked out tremendously over the past decade. I felt when he was presenting the trophy, there was also a part of him that was trumpeting a little bit, at least, the idea that another market, this one in Fort Lauderdale, but another market that had a lot of doubters when he helped pioneer a move towards it, is having a lot of success now.
Yep. Did you see the thing that I tweeted? I thought, I don't know who put this out first, but this is a really great illustrative graphic. So I'll put it up here now. If you're only listening to the podcast, you'll have to look at the video. But this is really good. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Right? It's like a panther's arm in the shape of Florida.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I thought that was great to show the dominance of Tampa and the Panthers.
So some failures in the southern and westward movement, but also some success. Vegas, Florida teams included. Scott, let's close with some breaking news as of about an hour before we started recording. The women's national team for the Paris Olympics coming up this summer was announced with a notable omission. Alex Morgan, one of the most popular, most recognizable, most successful players in U.S. women's national team history, left off the Olympic team. I think it's the first time in well over a decade that she has not been named to a major senior team tournament. Shades of the Caitlin Clark debate here a little bit again. What are your thoughts here on the business side?
Shades, I would say, not the same. Like the delta between what Alex would do for this team, because there are a number of other stars that people recognize and up and coming stars that people are sort of pushing to the forefront, Trinity Rodman among them. It pales into comparison to what Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball. I think we've talked about this. I think it's a huge mistake for Caitlin Clark not to be on that basketball team. What she has done on the business side is unprecedented, frankly. I understand there's growth across the league on all the teams, but if you just look at the difference in attendance and TV viewership of WNBA games without Caitlin and WNBA games that include Caitlin Clark, it is like 3x. It's astronomical what she has done, and I would label it imperative to do everything possible to continue that momentum. And it's not like you're putting a bad player on the roster. And I do understand, by the way, that you would say, well, that means somebody else loses a spot. I got it. But if you're ever under the impression that the Olympics is just about the game, you're insane. Then you do not understand what the Olympics has become as a marketing machine. And you, frankly, from basketball, in the biggest example I can give, you do not understand what the Dream Team was. The Dream Team was not a collection of the best basketball players at the time. It was the biggest names in basketball. I mean, even Christian Laettner, because what he done in college. But that was Larry Bird's last year playing in the NBA, and I wore the black Converse in honor of Larry Bird, so that guy could barely move. Like there were other players who were better than Larry Bird in 1992, but it was certainly a collection of poster boys for the NBA and sort of that blossoming into this global superpower of a league, of a game. So let's keep in perspective what the Olympics have been and are to this day. They are in large part a marketing machine.
I mean, I would widen this even beyond the Olympics. So much of sports, yes, is part of it is a meritocracy, but so much of sports, professional and college, is all these other things that go into roster construction and thinking. And I think it's a good end of this episode that started talking about Bronny James, right? And all these other things that I say this a lot, but everyone's favorite college basketball or football team is the back end of those rosters are full of players that aren't there because of their talent. They're there because they're going to graduate and improve the ratings. They're there because their younger brother or sister might be a really hot prospect. They're there because their parents have a lot of money and might be donating. They're there because they're willing to pay full price, and that affects the way that scholarships are divvied out across the rest of the team. We see this to a degree in professional sports as well. The idea that everybody on every roster is there just because they are the best, most qualified person just for their talents to be there is a total fallacy. So I think that's important context when thinking about a lot of these things. But you're absolutely right about Alex Morgan. So much of the women's soccer team, U.S. women's soccer team, is about turning over a new generation. And so many of those players, Becky Sauerbrunn, Megan Rapinoe, have retired, left the team recently. Alex Morgan is kind of the last of that. I think she's the only one, or maybe Alyssa Nair is the only other one from the 2015 World Cup team that is still on the team right now. There is a new generation here. So it's not like Caitlin. It's almost the inverse, right? As you're saying, it's older generation versus newer generation in some ways. But a lot of people surprised in the women's soccer world on Wednesday to see the roster and not see her name.
Yeah, speaking of families and reasons why people are in places, I mean, I'm on my last night here, Novi Williams. Will I meet the great Nita Novi?
I'm going to text you and Nita, legend, Ocean Grove legend, after this, and hopefully you guys can connect.
I mean, I assume she's within walking distance of where I am. I mean, I will.
The whole town is walking. That's God Square Mile down there.
I will make any effort. I will climb through sand dunes for a chance to converse with Nita Novi.
I'll make that happen. I promise.
Lovely. Better. You're better. Or else you're in trouble.
Scott Soshnick. You can find him on Twitter at Novi.
No, you can't. Oh, no. Mom's never been so disappointed. Nita always throws you off.
Me on Twitter at Novi_Williams. Nita Novi not on Twitter, unfortunately. The show is produced by Aaron Greenawald.
Many opinions, none voiced on Twitter.
You can follow the show at Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico.
Oh, no Cora Veltman? No, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. No, oh my God.
Nothing. Digital media
just end it. Just end it. Just end it. For God. I'm going to shoot this show, put it out of its misery.
The hub of the Sportico Media Network. Woof.